Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
On today's episode, ladies, you are in for a real treat. We have Paige Turner, who is not only the host, but the executive producer and creator of Fix My Flip, which is a show featured on HGTV. What I loved about this interview is there's such an authentic, real, conversation we had with Paige, which was super amazing. And I think one of the things you're going to appreciate most is we get into the business side of flips because, we talk about how this isn't just a side hustle, and she gives some great suggestions on what you really want to have in place so you make sure you're running it like a business.
Absolutely. And then also we talk about the mindset, right? The mindset that is holding women back because we tend to do a lot of things by ourselves, and real estate, it's not a solo game. So Paige really break down how can we overcome all those reasons or excuses why we're not investing in flips and building our own business. So it's a very, very tactical episode for you that are looking to invest in flips with confidence. That's the key here.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show, where we're all about empowering women worldwide to live a financially free and balanced life. And Andressa, whatever balance means to them, right?
Yes, it is. There's different forms, right? Whatever works for you.
Yes, we get some pushback on that word balance. So we like to keep saying it because it's important. We know right now we're all in on podcasting. Obviously, I'm not balanced right now, right? But holistically, we want to create lives on our own terms and serving people and creating financial freedom. So that's what we're about here in our community. Paige Turner, the host of Fix My Flip on HGTV. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you here today.
Liz and Andressa, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. You just ignited like something in my soul with your opening. I'm so excited to be here.
Wow. And being in this game for over 20 years and what you do, we really appreciate you being here too, and excited to jump into all things flipping. And that's my opening story. I don't think I can run Fix My Flip, to be honest with you. I don't think I could step into the shoes that you have, but we've done a handful, I'd say more than a couple dozen flips over our tenure. We're more multifamily syndicators is where we kind of went all in our investing journey, me and my husband. But I want to share this quick story because it ties in the power of a network. So really quick, we got a call from our attorney, which is a funny call to get. But we got a call from our attorney and he said,
which one?
Ron. And I'll never forget because and I'm so sad to say this, but I was on a way to a funeral. So I know, when you get calls in high emotional times or something happens on high emotional times, you remember everything. I remember where I was sitting. I remember I haven't gone into the funeral home. I remember everything. We're like, Ron, we're literally at a funeral on a way to walk in. This is not a good time. It's like, listen, I have an opportunity, a flip in XYZ neighborhood. You got to call me back. We're like, sounds amazing. We're not going to talk to you right now about it. So anyway, after everything, we ended up
that was a good call from Ron. I know. I'm going to call him and say, why don't I get those calls?
So first, you will. First lesson, you can get opportunities from anyone, even your attorney, which was an interesting piece. But why I'm telling you all this was a 7,000 square foot home, 6-bedroom home. And it was literally the largest type of flip that we would ever have done. And my husband and I were talking, we're like, this is like a big deal for us, right? The cost of the house, everything. Because, A was in a little bit of a higher priced environment. And you're renovating literally 6,000 square feet. And I remember calling Andressa because she at that point, long before Invest Her, but her and I were on a mastermind together and support to each other. And I remember bouncing this off of her. And she's like, Liz, you got this. You're going to be bringing in partners. You're doing all the right things. Go for it. And I remember that conversation. I don't know if you remember that, Andressa.
I do not.
Okay. We have a lot of conversations. Sometimes she'll say the same thing to me. I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember saying that to you, but I remember it. And I remember feeling much better about the situation. I spoke to my husband, but something about my peer and my friend and someone else in the mastermind was saying that to me, gave me this extra boost. And we ended up doing great with the project. We profited very well on it, had it under contract before we were done. So everything worked out. I can't say that for every flip we did, but everything worked out for that project. And I just tell you that because what we're putting together in June 23rd, June 24th, we have our inaugural Investor Con, which is our in-person conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a 2-day transformational experience. And it's going to be where you're going to meet women that have your back. Like Andressa had my back that day. So she saw something in me. And when I doubted myself, she's like, you got this. You've done other flips. You're doing the right things. Go for it. So all she needed to say was a 5-minute conversation. And I'm like, we're going for this. And sometimes we don't have women in our circle that can do that. And that is one of the biggest things you're going to get, like really meaningful connections, meaningful relationships you're going to get from our conference, plus 20 speakers, 5 keynotes, just an experience in and of itself. It's not going to be a boring conference. But you're going to meet those women who have your back. And if you have women like that, you're going to meet more of them, because we all need women, a handful of them that have our back, and we can just call when we don't believe in ourselves. So that's what I wanted to share. And you can go to our website to learn more about it. We have June 23rd, June 24th.
So it's called mindful networking, because when it's just like a whatever traditional networking, it's just like very transactional, right? So we're preparing a very mindful networking with some structure for you to really connect with other women in a different level. So your relationship does not end when this event ends. Our intention is for you to build relationships that are going to last beyond this event. So I cannot tell you, you should not miss this event. I'm telling you, it's going to be transformational. That's all what Liz and I can tell you for now.
Yes. And you can check it out on our website, therealestateinvestor.com, and get more info there. So without further ado, Paige, thank you again so much for being here. I have so many questions for you. And the one that we always like to kind of kick things off for our interviews is, what propelled you to get involved in flipping, to be a real estate investor? What was it for you that moved you in this direction?
3 babies, all under the age of 2, and no child support.
Oh, great. I see the stars all aligned for you.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, and having 3 babies a little bit before I was prepared. 2 of them are twins. So that's how they all kind of came at one time. I was like, well, this is my new normal. That was before saying new normal was a thing. You know, they're 25 and 27 now. And I said, I have to find a better way to live other than clocking in, you know, because I'm going to miss everything. I'm going to be, as we say now, hyper irritable. I'm going to just be living paycheck to paycheck and never be able to catch up, even though I wasn't doing bad. Once you have 3 children, well, you know, now that they're all, I'll say this, now that they're all adults and graduate from college, I didn't realize how much money I've had all these years because they're off my payroll now. So now, you know, for 24 years while they were, or 23 years while they were in college, I'm like, will I ever see money again? That's my own. So that's what started me in real estate. I worked for Magic Johnson for a long time, like 6 years. And so that was my first experience. I worked for Magic Johnson Development specifically, where he was going into urban areas and finding different cities where he could plant the first Black-owned movie theaters in an urban area. And so the first one was out here in Los Angeles in the Crenshaw district. And at the time, Ken Lombard was running Magic Johnson Development. And so he was one that said, you should get into real estate. I was still super young, like 25, 26. And I was like, okay, whatever that means, that sounds fun. I love doing this, but I still didn't understand. Long story short, decided to make a change and a journey to Nashville. At the time, it was much more affordable for a single mom with 3 little girls. And I remember that conversation. I said, well, I only know 3 people in Nashville, but maybe I could get my license still. And that's where it started. Now, I didn't know that I'd be working much more than a 9 to 5. Right. It turned into 20 hours a day, but at least I could work from the volleyball game, you know, or from, you know, band practice. So it's really been a blessing in my life. And that's how the long story. was really a short story, but the short of the long, because I'm long-winded, you guys.
and fast forward, now you're the host of Fix My Flip on HGTV. And I think a lot of the women that are listening wish they had this button, this red button on their flip, that when the contractor doesn't show up or things are just like one behind the other, they push that button, fix my flip, and then here comes Paige. Here comes Paige and say, okay, let's fix this. Right? Because I had moments that the lessons that I had to learn and all the flips that I did, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need somebody to kind of like save me, but I had to save myself, right? There was not anybody to save it. But for all the women that are listening, they understand real estate, the power of adding value to a house. Yeah. However, many underestimate it and over trust people and don't put systems and process in place and just like, yeah, well, we're doing it. All of the sudden you are 6 months in this project, right? So from the women that are listening, that are thinking about, okay, I need to have some structure in order for me to be able to do a profitable flip, because that's the goal.
Yep.
What would you say are the most common mistakes that people make when doing their fix and flip projects?
So, Angela, that's a good question. I'm going to give you the first mistake. And this is what's so brilliant. Your conference, I do believe, will solve the first mistake, because you're going beyond networking and you're creating relationship building, so that a woman that I meet at your conference, I'll be able to know I can depend on her to call, because she wouldn't be there under your leadership, under your guidance, unless she wanted the same thing. So the first mistake people make is that they don't get a mentor. They don't shadow somebody, and they don't simply pick up the phone and call and ask people, even if they don't know that person, just by, I call it shaking hands and kissing babies. We haven't been able to do that so much during the pandemic, but now that life is coming back and in-person events are happening and small groups are meeting, you can go back and start building those relationships again and find somebody who you can shadow. Or when you ask somebody, when you invite somebody, that's what I like to say, to be a mentor in your life. Well, I'm a firm believer that, sometimes we have those big sisters that we can call on for help, but sometimes we have to invest in ourselves by investing in a mentor financially. Because people show up for that, right? And even if you think you're creative and say, listen, you've done this before and I need your help, so I'll cut you in the deal, because like you just said, I'm in this to profit. So there is room. There's no need to be greedy. I hate greedy people. There's enough to share all the way around, even if that means I have to take a little less, but I get so much more from the impact that mentor will give me, because guess what? In the long run, I'm going to save, because I won't have to make all the mistakes.
Indeed.
Yeah, I love that. I think just the mentor conversation is an important one. We see it a lot in our community. Some women really know how to, hey, I need some help here. And other women just have no idea on how to really position themselves to either ask for a mentor or be a mentor. And I'm just curious, like, I'll get emails of women who literally just like, can you mentor me? That's the email. Like,
yeah,
like,
me too. Can you mentor me? Can I?
I'm sure, Paige, you get like hundreds and thousands of emails, but it's and I don't mean to be mean about it, but that's, I get a lot of emails. I'm sure, I get a ton of emails, and I really like responding to everyone. That's me. I just want to help everyone. That's
God,
like one of my
God bless your heart,
Achilles heels. But, but on the other hand, for the mentorship perspective, how can women, position themselves properly, to invite someone to be a mentor? And I'm curious if there's any suggestions you have, because I think this is a big one for women. They don't want to ask for help. They don't want to bother somebody. We all have a long list why we don't put ourselves out there. Why don't we ask the question we really want to ask, but we're just held back? Mm-hmm. And we really, one of the things that Andres and I stand for is that we're not held back, and you're holding yourself back. So how do we break through that, right? Ask for what you want, make sure you're getting what is due here. And women are so worth it. So how have you seen women break past that? Oh, I don't want to ask for a mentor. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to bother people. How have you seen women can successfully do that so they can be in the position to get what they want?
Honestly, Liz, I haven't seen too many women do that. I think pride and ego and mostly fear get in the way. And then there's also, you talked about balance at the beginning, which I threw that out the window a long time ago. I am first true to myself and make sure that I am in a healthy mental and spiritual place, and then everything else I figure out. But I think that another word you mentioned, Liz, was alignment. You know, you have the woman that just says, "Will you be my mentor?" I'm like, okay, well, 1, I don't know you. 2, we haven't cultivated a relationship. 3, are you trustworthy? You know, and 4, are we supposed to work together? So it's a lot more than just a simple question that we get in a DM. And quite honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out outside of having conferences. And, you know, I'm not in a position in my life where I want a one-on-one coaching accountability session. I just graduated 3 children from college a couple of years ago, and I just don't want to babysit anybody. But what I do want to do is come in, impart, drop the gems, drop the knowledge. You know, sometimes, what are they? You have, like, if you're ever in church, you have like these evangelists. They just go, they drop the word and they move on, you know, where pastors stay and they cultivate and they come every Sunday. That's not me right now in this stage of my life. So I think each person is different. I do find that fear holds so many women back from asking for help when they're in trouble. You know, being a real estate broker for 20 years, I see that's how people went into foreclosure. People just don't stop and say, how can I stop, you know, from going into foreclosure? Well, sell your house, you know, but sometimes ego, you can sell your house and make a profit. As soon as you see yourself slipping, find a realtor.
Go rent.
Go immediately. You know, don't go into foreclosure, especially when you have equity in your house. But because of fear and pride and ego, people would just rather have all those notices go up and the sheriffs come in and dump everything out. You know, I listed for HUD for 10 years. So I watched it happen all the time. So Liz, you know, I think that each situation is just so completely different, you know, but I do see less women asking for help. I actually see more men asking for help, you know, than women, but we carry so much on our shoulders that there's no judgment there. It's just a matter of learning and getting around other like-minded women, like at your conference, where you have that safe space and where you learn. And now you know how to ask, where to ask.
I agree with you. And I think that many times women get stuck. They either don't get started or they don't scale their business because they are always thinking, how can I handle all of it? Right? By myself. And that is the point here that we are trying to talk to all of you listening. You're stuck because you're thinking that you're a solo and you will be solo. And this real estate, it's not a solo game. It's a team game. And you better start playing it right now. Otherwise, you're going to burn out because it can. I always say, listen, bad things happen, but also good things, really good things happen. It happened to me when, okay, I had 2 or 3 flips going on at the same time. Guess what? And I said, no, I don't want any other. And then that great deal comes across and you're like, I can't let that pass. I can't let that pass, right? So you got the 2 more and all of a sudden you have it. So for the women that are listening, you've got to think about different types of partnerships. And I'm not asking you to marry somebody, to think about this long-term relationship. You can test the waters with different people, but you can either pay for your mistakes or you pay for somebody else's experience. And you're going to just soak that in, right? In terms of flips, one of the biggest concerns that women have is that managing the budget and managing the timeline. And sometimes those two are like twins. They sometimes don't go together at all. For those, because those are very critical, right? Managing the money and managing your timeline. What have you seen that you in your flips that you're part of or that really worked? because I can tell you what doesn't, but I want to hear from you. What worked?
You know, going back, because you asked me for 3 tips. So you just nailed the next 2. The second one is build a strong team. Like even before you jump in, you need to know who's on your team, who you can rely on. And this is aside from your mentor. Once you work through that and establish that, you have to build a strong team. No flip her is an island. You can't do this by yourself, right? And so knowing who's on your team first and interviewing people, interviewing contractors, because if you get a rotten apple, they're not going to show up. They're going to way overcharge you, and they won't understand. Well, let me say this: building a strong team with your contractor, with your realtor, with even your insurance, company. Everybody knows that, hey, once we get this one done or 3 done at the same time, we're always going to be able to keep making money together. So this isn't just a one-off where I'm going to not use you anymore. Like my contractor right now, we're like on our 5th flip just in the last couple of months. And I have other go-tos because I do like having backups as well, because people get busy or life happens to people. But I'm like, hey, listen, let's keep this pipeline going. So when my investments are always a pipeline. So once I get this one done, okay, so this is going to be 4-month money down the line, and then 5-month money. And even if it's 12 months, like let's say new construction, because I'm still a real estate broker, do we not need to get paid next March? Yes, we do. So, it's always a pipeline that I'm building. So number 2 is a team. And number 3 is this budget. On this show, you guys, you are not going to believe the women that get involved and need help. I always say when you're in a hole, stop digging and just ask for help. Somebody's going to throw you a rope. Even if you have to, include them in the deal, ask for help, who don't know their budget. On the show, you're going to see me say, upon introduction, so what's your budget? And they're going to say, I don't know.
Oh,
can you imagine buying a $700,000 property that's worth $1.5 million after renovation and you don't know your budget or your exit plan? Or your team?
How did that happen?
Because you don't have a mentor, you don't have a budget, you don't have a team, you don't have a marketing plan, you don't know what you're doing. And I apparently, now that I'm watching the show, I don't have a poker face. So I have to work on it. So I'm like, what? And I even offer said woman in this particular example, let me buy this from you. Because what I don't want you to do is risk your entire savings and legacy, because that's what's happening. You're going to lose every dime. If I buy this from you right now, you'll make $300,000 and you can move on with your life. But if not, and so you'll have to tune in to see if they even work out, because I don't even know if they're going to finish their flipping except my help.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes ego gets in the way.
Most times it's ego and pride. I've seen that for the last 20 years I've been in this business, and it breaks my heart, especially coming from women when I'm begging them to let me help you. People, I don't watch football, but so this might sound silly, but you don't win the Super Bowl without having a good coach on the sideline. The coach sees what you can't, because the coach's eyes are up and looking while your eyes are down, getting ready to go do your play, right? And so I haven't, this past Super Bowl, because it was the LA Rams, it was the first full football game I've ever watched in my life. I hate football, but I was so excited because I literally, because it was the LA Rams, I'm from LA, and it's, it was in the new SoFi Stadium. I didn't go, I watched it, but I applied it to life, and I was like, oh my God, this is such a comeback story. Oh my God, look at these plays they're making. They're doing something in history that women, we can all take part of when you put together that team and listen to your coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you said something in something I was reading about how important the flipping, really any niche, but especially flipping is not just this, oh, it's just going to be the means to the end. I really want to go do this, but I'm just going to flip 10, 15 properties, make a ton of profit, and then go to that next thing. Flipping is a business. And I say that all the time. And I don't know if all the shows out there depict that. It sounds like your show is really depicting that, which is phenomenal, but it's frustrating. Sometimes people think it's easier than it is. It's not rocket science, but it is. There's a lot of pieces to a flip. I always say rentals are forgiving. You're owning it for a longer term. All right. You spend a little more in renovation. Your budget went up a little bit. Okay. You're going to make that up because you're holding it long-term. Flips are not that way. It's not forgiving. It's like game on. Budget, timeline, and team. If you don't manage that well, you will lose. If you manage it well, you will win. It's not more complex than that in my experience. So when you're like, when you see this, that happening, you know, that idea of the business piece. So what are the critical things? Having a marketing plan. What are those other pieces of the puzzle? Obviously knowing your budget. That's pretty key. That's a big fear for women. They don't know what things cost. And how do I know if I'm spending too much or too little? What are some of those kind of ways that they can make sure that they're you know, setting themselves up for success with their budget, with their plan, you know, and really setting themselves up like a business, not a side hustle?
Well, you guys are hitting on all my heartstrings. I think this is probably my favorite interview or conversation based around the show, but beyond the show, because we have like minds and spirits with investing, right? And investors, you know, because this is not a game or a side hustle, nor is it easy. And as soon as I hear people say, ooh, I'm gonna hustle this real estate and I want to get in the real estate game, I'm like, well, you're about to lose, because this is a full-on business and each flip should have a business plan. And if you don't follow that, that's why this show exists, because people don't have just the fundamental understanding of business 101. And it might be because, especially in the world of social media, we see the end result and we see the money and we don't see how long it took for real. We see what it took on Instagram, which is a 30-second video, from beginning to end. We don't see the tears. We don't see when we need help. We don't see the failures, in each project.
How smelly were the houses?
How smelly, how horrible the houses are. Another one of my poker faces I don't have when I walk in, like, whoa, because you can't smell it on TV, but my face will tell the story. And so, just having the understanding that this is a business. And just like when people buy their first homes, that's the most money they'll spend probably in their entire lives as, first-time home buyers in an average market. The same thing with flipping. Your first flip is probably the most money you've put anywhere your entire life. So to not have this business plan to support this business decision and a mental shift, that's what I talk to people about first. So let's talk about your mental, because no, it's not rocket science, right, Liz? But it is a business. So let's talk about what you think you're going to get out of this and what you expect, because it is, all this pretty that we put on, for TV or for podcasts is not how you go to a flip. This is how you go to a flip. You put your hair up, you pull your sleeves up, and you go get to work. You're working on those numbers. You're working, you might be fussing with your contractor, fussing with times and delivery, and that's what's real. And, people just don't have that mind shift and understanding before they start.
My first flip, I remember it was supposed to be a 65,000 budget, and I pay 112. Right?
Yeah.
Why did I buy that specific vanity or that level of granite or what? I did not have a finishes list, all the items picked up, and I went custom on a couple of things. I tell my contractors I am allergic to custom. unless
I like that one.
Yeah, I'm allergic to custom unless the price of the property justify the custom piece, right, and then I'll go for it, right? But if we're talking around the 400-ish area, there's no custom, right? They might look good, they might look expensive, but it's all from your regular supplier that offers that. So one of the things that I see it a lot is like over rehabbing or putting your personal taste into it. And here's what I mean by that, right? I love Italians, right? My family is Brazilian Italian. So I love Italians, and Italians love tile. How do I know an Italian rehab that property? When I go to the bathroom and like head to toe, everywhere. Everywhere there's tile and there's marble somewhere in the property, right? So for the women that are listening, is there a way, how can they avoid over rehabbing a property?
That's a great question. So unapologetically, many of us are emotional and we're in touch with our emotions, and we want the best for everyone, including the buyers for this house. But instead of thinking about the buyers and market, which goes back to what we were just chatting a little bit about having a business plan and a marketing plan for each property, because you have to know your area and what and whom you're renovating for. What I tell people is that you don't want to be the biggest, most beautiful, most expensive house on the block, because number one, there won't be a comp for it. Which means that when the appraisal comes, it's going to underappraise for your list price, which means you're not going to make the money you projected, which means that you probably over renovated for the area. So let's start backwards. Okay. Let's start with the area. Let's take a tour of some open houses in the area. Let's see what some renovations are going for. Let's see what people are buying. Let's see what, and it's okay to push the market and change the market if you're that, big, bold, flipper that wants to go in and start changing an area. You're the first house. But even then, you have to just know your market. Every neighborhood is different. And in Los Angeles, you can have, now listen, our numbers are a little different, you guys. So
yeah, let's pause there.
Let me just, because I heard you say 400,000. I was like,
yeah, no, the lower areas here, because now the prices are going crazy, but yeah.
Well, I have a flip right now, and it was a hot mess, hot mess. And I got it for a steal at $650,000. So that new ticket is $950,000. But even then, again, this is market like sensitive and market, whatever word I'm looking for. So in this market, a $950,000 house isn't what the rest of the country might think it is. It's still a first-time buyer neighborhood. It's, very just traditional for $950,000, but there's no high end in this flip because it's not a high end area. And I went and I did my market research before I even closed. I was checking out the comps, and that also is because I'm a broker and I'm just comp crazy and I love comps and I'm never ever wrong because I'm so good at my comps. I was able to already start picking out, like you were saying, okay, what are my finishes going to be? I already knew what it was going to be. Now, sometimes you actually walk in the property again once it's all emptied out, because when we were under contract, it was people were so occupied. And I did change some things, like, oh, you know what? Let me I did add a little bit upgraded tile because I knew I was pushing the price a little bit, because I really could have been around 900,000 if I went super basic, but I'm never going to be too basic. And I'll say this, and then, I get long-winded sometimes, but one thing I know is that buyers are super savvy nowadays. They find houses before they find realtors. And most people think they're realtors anyway without having a license, because it's fun while you're online looking for different houses and saying, oh, well, this house is this. So when I always think as the buyer, while I am doing the renovation, people get stuck with themselves, and say, well, I want it to be this, this, and this. No. We want it to be what the market is calling for, but still respect the buyer, because we still need a good price.
Makes total sense. You mentioned about comps, right? I'm also a big fan of comps, and that's going to dictate if it is a deal or if it is not. And if I were to sell it right now, what would I get, right? And appraisers. What a fun breed, right? Because when we either they get exactly your loan amount, or sometimes, they're a little over the place. And I've dealt with different lenders, different appraisers to overcome the appraisal report, because there were so many mistakes. And I was able to really understand, okay, what are the rules to running comps? What are my rules over here of my market that are completely different from somebody from Kentucky, for example, right? Mm-hmm. But you're mentioning such a great point in terms of the comps. And I think that it's as important as knowing your numbers.
Absolutely.
Spreadsheet, you've got to know how to run comps.
And know how to do adjustments as well. So that's another step. So your comps, you don't compare apples to oranges, but if there's only apples to oranges to compare in the immediate neighborhood within 3 miles, then you need to know how to adjust. And if you don't want to know how to do that, that's when you have to get a good realtor on your team that knows how to do all that. Because I think like an appraiser as well. And I don't get so emotionally involved in my flip to think that it's worth more than it is. You have to put on your buyer's hat and say, as a buyer, would you pay X amount of dollars for this property the way that it is? And if your answer is no, then you need to adjust your numbers, because that's all an appraiser is going to do. They're going to go in, they're going to see the upgrades, they're going to make adjustments for the neighborhood, and then give you this number. Now, there are times where, because appraisers get very busy, that maybe they miss our number. So I just politely send a little email with some supporting comps and adjustments. Maybe you missed this. I know you're so busy. And sometimes they're like, I don't adjust my comps. I don't adjust my appraisal. Right. But sometimes I've had more wins in that where they're like, you know what? I did miss that property. Thank you for pointing out that adjustment. And then they do adjust it. And that just goes back to who the appraisers are. They cool or are they not? You know what I'm saying? So, it can be hit and miss, but definitely always worth trying to. But if you don't know how to do adjustments and good comps, then you won't even know to do that.
You're just going to accept it as it is, as your final sentence.
Exactly. No, we're not accepting that.
I love it. I love it. So, I think about like between your flipping when you were doing it, and now you're counseling people and partnering with people, quite honestly, in what you're doing on HGTV. What for you when you were doing, either or, would have been the biggest mistakes that you've made that you are so grateful for, that have created the ability to help other people in this business? Like what's that, one or two mistakes, one or two big lessons that you've gotten along the way? And, just curious because I think that's so important what you just said earlier. I'll just make a mention that we see the end result. We don't see the mistakes that people that are successful that made, because we all do. And we just, some of us talk about them and some of us don't. It doesn't mean that people just are like, whatever they touch is gold. Yeah. Although I do know some people who say that. I'm like, I just need to spend an hour with you and I'll find some things you've probably done wrong. Usually not women. I hate to be so biased, but they're usually not women.
Listen, for those people that say, however, everything that I touch, it turns gold. Right. You know what happens with Midas, right?
They don't say that, but if you listen to them on an interview or you listen to them, that is what they're saying. In my humble opinion.
Freaking ego, man.
So
no, you're right,
Paige.
And those are when I roll my eyes and I probably just go to the next podcast. Like we'll stick with the investor podcast where, you're going to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's not true. Anyway, I'm sorry. Because some names just came to my head on social media. I'm like, oh, when I see him, and for some reason I still follow him, it just irritates me. But when I see him, I'm like, listen, you and your wife and your puppy dogs, none of that is real life. You know what I'm saying? I would love to see you as soon as you stop recording. I'm sorry. Okay, a little counseling session.
Another podcast. We'll have you back on and we'll just talk about that the entire hour. But for you, what were some of those big lessons that you learned along the way that have helped shape you?
Well, I think we touched on them. One thing I didn't say, just to mention too, one is not having a mentor. I got into this business blindly. I started my real estate, my own brokerage 3 years after I had my license, blindly, without help. And I spent a lot of money. I lost a lot of money because I just didn't have help. And unfortunately in real estate, I think now we're more of a gathering mind, women. But back then, 20 years ago, nobody wanted to help me because real estate is so competitive. Like I could sell every house on my own, you know what I'm saying? No, I need help, And so, but back then I just couldn't find anybody to help me. That's number one. So that mentor. Number two, working with your head down and not paying attention to trends, not paying attention to what's around the corner, not reading something every single day from wherever you get your information from, to know what could happen. Nobody can predict what will happen. Like when people say, what do you think is going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. Did you know the pandemic was going to happen? I don't know. Let's just get real. Sell as much as you can, save as much as you can, and get ready. That's all I can tell you, right? Let's just, I'm trying to be like this, this reporter. Well, I think that in the next year and a half, I don't know. None of us know. All I know is we're in a seller's market. Do what you can and say what you can, right?
But, it depends. Let's ask for the variants and see what they say. If another variant comes through,
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, right? But when I say having your head down, I remember in 2007, I opened up my first real estate brokerage in 2006, and I had maybe 42 agents, and we were all making so much money. I'd only been in the business 4 years, and I was like, this is amazing, turn out. I'm just selling. And then literally one day, I said, wait a minute, am I paying my office rent from my own account instead of from the business account where the agents should be paying the rent from, our splits? Mm-hmm. And I was like, so I paid. I said, that was an ouch. And then the next month I paid it again. And then I see people retire. Oh, Paige, I'm going to get a job at the post office. And I'm like, why? Well, because I can't find, real estate's getting hard. And my head was down, and I didn't know that a recession, I think we were in one at that point. This is before Google. So I had to go to the library and look up recession, right? And I'm like, Mommy, what is a recession? She was like, oh, well, we've had those, they come and go. But no, I had never heard of a recession, like as a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have anybody to turn to, and I didn't know what to do. Now I'm resilient and I'm resourceful, and having resources many times means a lot more than having money. Because when money goes dry, if you have resources, then you'll always be able to eat. And because I'm resourceful and I dig and I look and I dig and I research, I was able to come across a HUD contract that I had for 10 years that made me more than enough money to put, as a single mom, especially, put my kids through private school and through college, and graduated them all. And they're all at the same time because they're stair steps. So 3 drivers, 3 proms, 3 college, tuitions. Oh God. And but that was a save from my resilience and not wanting to be hungry. But going back to what you asked, Liz, having your head down and working in your business and not on your business, where your head is up and you're looking, right? Because we drown sometimes in our work. And that goes back to because we only depend on ourselves instead of spreading the wealth and saying, it's time for me to start paying somebody to help me. We try to do it all on our own, and that will kill us too, real quick.
Indeed. Sure. A lot of women here, I'm going to just be blunt with the excuses that we hear, right? Here are the reasons why I'm not hiring people. One of them is that I can't afford it. I am too small to hire. My business is not organized, or it's messy, and I don't want to show that to other people. Others are like, honestly, it's easier and quicker if I do it myself. I don't have the patience to manage a team. So all of that, either separate or combined, those are the things that we're hearing from many women on our community, and they're still tapping themselves, right? There's limited time that they can do it. So for those quote unquote excuses or reasonings, what would you tell those women?
That goes back to fear. So what that fear is being out of control. You're not trusting yourself or somebody else with your business. And it's and I was that control freak. I was that, I'll do it. I was on stroke level, but I'll do it because I didn't trust anybody to do it like I would do it. So number one, I had to ask myself, well, who do you think you are? You think you're the best in the world and nobody else can do it? You think you're the only one? So let's check that mentality first. Okay. No, I could not grow unless I had help. Hiring a full-time assistant was the best thing I ever did. And she worked for me for 10 years. And and then I made her get her license, because I said, listen, I'm never going to pay you more than this X amount right now, because that's all this job calls for. You get your license. Now you work with me and not for me, because she was a single mom too. And you're good. And she just has blown her real estate out of the water. I'm so proud of her. So if you can't afford it, which that word can't, that goes back to being resourceful. Go find an intern. You might not need a full-time to start out. You might just need somebody part-time to help you structure your business. Go find somebody in school who will do that, who will align themselves with you, who, guess what? They might need a mentor. So there's always a way to exchange services. Find interns, but or even go through the .coms and pay for really inexpensive help just to keep you going and keep you afloat to grow your business. Because as long as you're working in it, you can't work on it.
So true. And it really limits so many women, especially the women that are looking to scale. They've done like a handful of flips or a handful of rentals, and they're just they got to get to that next level, and they can't,
Right.
they're not going to get to the next level by themselves. It's just impossible. And I think that's the piece that we see so much of the women in our community, like getting to that next level, and really being able to let go. And it's hard sometimes.
It is.
But we need to.
You know, you have to. I had to. And it is so freeing once you do. Just like I said about my kids, I'm like, I have all this time. I was like, who knew there was really more hours in a day? There are more hours in a day.
You know, on the vein of kids, I'm curious, you know, seeing their mom do what you did over the years, what do you hope that your kids get from you in terms of qualities, or have gotten from you in terms of qualities?
And I see that their resilience, their strength. And what the kids nowadays, you know, this generation, they're, even though they're very entitled, which irks me, you know, because they've been given a lot, they haven't had to work like I've had to work, you know, the old school way. And that just is what it is, you know, but I feel that I see their resilience and their strength. I don't know that they see it yet, but my hope is that they will honor the legacy, because everything I did was for them. Now I'm living a little bit for me because they're grown and living their own lives. But even in building, like, let's say this show, this show is a show and it's fun, but here's the deal, girls, guess what? The first show I was on fizzled away, you know, but now your mom is creator, your mom is executive producer, and she's host. I went and built my own table so that I could, I know we just said it's not good, but so that I can be in control of this part, even though I have help, you know what I'm saying? I'm not by myself, but I built my own table. And I don't know that many, you know, women on television can say that yet. I created the show, I'm EP and I host it, you know, what better way than to create a lasting legacy, which is important, even in flipping. And on the show, I even say, you guys, to this one couple, you guys aren't gonna believe this show. You know, they're like, we're building for our legacy. I was like, hold on, that's a trigger word. If you use that word with me, I'll be here forever helping you and holding your ladder to make sure that you win. But then in turn, it's like, well, yeah, this is our legacy, but XYZ is going to happen. And will they accept my help or will they not? My hope is that my kids understand this legacy is for their children's children. So that, what did Mark Jobs say? You should make, not Mark, Jesus Lord, what's his name? I don't even know why I said that name. I do know why, but Steve. He said, you know, we're here to make a dent in the universe, you know, and that's what I want to do. I want to make a dent, leave my mark so that my children's children know who their great-great-grandmother was.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's so powerful to be able to, because I think about that. I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I think about them as adults, which just kind of boggles my mind.
It's crazy.
My son is going to be a dad one day. Hopefully, my daughter's actually going to be running something one day. It makes me laugh a little bit because I see their craziness, and my daughter's like, you know, she's just a little crazy little 4-year-old about to be 5-year-old. And I think about them when they're in their 20s. I do. And I'm like, and in their 30s. And I'm like, what do I want to impart to them? Because I need to be intentional. It's not going to just happen by stance. I have to be, and some days, you know, I'm a hot mess. And that's what they're getting from me, to be perfectly frank. And other days, I'm like super intentional, right? And like, especially my son, you talk about entitled. And I just want to speak to this quickly. The entitledness of children, right? The entitledness of kids. And my son, I said to my husband the other day, I feel like he has this little bit of this, what he's saying, he sounds entitled to me. And I'm very aware of it. And it was a big deal to go out to dinner for my family. Like literally my 16th birthday was my dad taking me and my 5 friends out to dinner. That was my 16th birthday present. So I know how important that was for them to put that money aside to take me and my 5 friends out to dinner. Now going to dinner is like every Friday night. So I'm just saying this because I think as women they're building wealth, they're creating financial freedom, they're having wins in their own life financially. And like the last thing I want is, as we grow our own wealth and grow our own business, is for my kids to be entitled or to not get the lessons that I got as a kid. So that's a work in progress, you know, where my husband and I actually have some interesting creative ideas on what to do. And we're working through a little bit right now. But I just say that because I think that's such an important, so important to the women listening, is that we do create this financial freedom. We do create this financial abundance, security, fill in the blank. But I don't want to do it at the cost of my kids feeling entitled or not getting the lessons that I got as a kid. Because I did have to work for it. It was a big deal, some of the different things. So I don't have an exact lesson answer, but I think just, ladies, watch your kids, watch what they're hearing, watch what they're saying, and because I can nip that in the bud for an 8-year-old.
Yeah. One thing I had to do, and we'll have to have a mom podcast one time, but one thing I did early, and my kids are a lot older than yours, Liz, but I remember they were fighting over, this is going to date me, but VHS tapes. They wanted to watch Rugrats, and they had a TV in their room. We had a TV in the living room and TV in my room. And that immediate moment when they were fighting, I said, no more. I took the TV out of their room. We only had 2 TVs in the house instead of 10. We had one in the den. I took one out the living room. You shouldn't have a TV in your living room anyway. Took that one out the living room. So we had one in our den and one in my room. And that way I was able to control it. That way they understood that there are provisions and, you can't just turn on the TV. And then because there was 3 of them, they had to work together if they wanted to watch something. And I put hours on the TV. Now they didn't have tablets back then. So God bless you, Liz, because I also understand with my sister who has kids your exact age, sometimes I'm like, just give them the tablet, you know what I'm saying? Because it becomes a babysitter, right? But then I feel bad. I'm like, no, we can't, we got to pull it back, and our time with our kids is, I don't like calling kids a job, but that was another thing God told me, like when they get out of school from 4 to 9, that's you and them. That's no tablet. That's no TV. That's you and them. You can't be on the phone. You can't text. That's you and them. When they go to bed, do what you want, and that really changed for us. And I am grateful that I didn't raise kids who are addicted to games. They weren't gamers. I bought one gaming system and we had to go to Blockbuster every weekend to rent one game, and we took it back. And it was hard on me because I really wanted that little babysitter. But at the same time, I wanted to raise children that were socially, able to socialize well and not just stuck in their room. So my kids did play outside. I made them. I was like, go outside. Alone, so that's another story, but another talk we can have. But it's hard, Liz. It's hard. You are probably going to be the toughest generation of parents ever because you're contending with so much outside noise. But
well, the idea I had, I don't know if this will serve anyone listening, but the idea I had, my son's obsessed with Legos, and my idea was, and he buys them with his own money. He saves them. We have a little family meeting every month, and he puts his money aside. So if it's not birthday or Christmas money, he usually is buying his own Lego sets. So, however, it's like he becomes obsessed with the next Lego set. It's like this, entitled obsession. So my husband and I are like, why don't we create like a gratitude project? And he has to achieve this gratitude project in order to, before anything else happens with anything Lego. We're still kind of floating the idea around, to be honest. I'm going to talk to my father. I'm going to go to my resources to pull this project together, but it's going to be about like gratitude of what he has. Because he literally, when I tell you how many Lego sets he has, it's like, it's crazy. So again, I just float that as an idea for all the creative women listening and men listening. We have to be the ones that put these things in place for our kids, because society won't. Nope. Society won't. I know that much. So I'm like, all right, we're getting creative here. What are we going to do? So I'm actually have a call with my dad. I scheduled a call with my father for later today. And I'm like, Dad, I got something on here and I need your brainstorm, because he was a teacher for 40 years. So
nice.
Like, all right, we're doing a gratitude project. What do you think, Dad? What does he need to do?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
But anyway, Paige, thank you so much for opening up, sharing all your great suggestions with us, our audience. And love what you're doing, what you stand for. Where can the ladies listening learn more about you and follow you along your wonderful journey here?
Well, thank you both so much for having me. I just feel so great this morning. I feel super empowered. I'm so glad to meet 2 amazing women that are like-minded and really making waves, in our, female community. So thank you both so much for all that you're doing for us. It's needed. So keep going. Hey, y'all can follow me on Instagram at Paige Turner Unlimited. No I, just PAGE Turner Unlimited.
Awesome. And this information you guys can find on our show notes. Now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions page. And the first question that I have for you is, what's the most transformational book you ever read?
Oh, besides The Go Life book on Amazon? Just kidding. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, that I've ever read. Oh my gosh.
Or recently read something that had a tremendous impact in your life?
This may be a little, I have it right here actually. It's Will by Will Smith. It is something else. It talks about, we didn't say this word today, but he really gets transparent on his journey. And it's just reading it is a tearjerker from chapter 1. I'm about just over halfway through it. It's heavy. It's heavy, but just, I can relate to so much in it because, you know, I don't know if he was born in the late 60s or 70s. He's a 70s baby like me. So a lot of it is like, oh, I remember that, you know, taking back down that journey. And he's a great storyteller. So right now it's him because I'm just addicted to this book and I love it.
The second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life, whatever balance means to you?
At 48, it's grace, giving myself grace to just be me and working it out, whomever I wake up to be that day, because we unapologetically are a whole lot at one time, and I've embraced it, and I hope that you will too. So grace.
The last question is, which woman, famous or not, has inspired you the most?
My mother, my father passed away when I was 8, and I didn't realize she was a single mother before I became a single mother. And not only was she a single mother, but I'm biracial. My dad is Black and my mom is white. And looking back at all that she had to fight through, just having me on her hip, you know, without the Black counterpart to help her, you know, raise a Black woman in our society, and her always in my ear, keep going, you got it, don't worry about it, get back up. She's always been right there. And at 81 and having her last round of chemo and being healed at 81, having to go through that and still carrying me, it's her, always her. Sorry.
No.
Wow. We're so sorry to hear that.
That question. Yeah, my mommy, she's a champ. She is a champ. So her all day, every day.
It sounds like it, right? I mean, sounds like a wonderful woman.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Paige, thank you so much for being on our show. We really sincerely appreciate your time, and can't wait to watch the show, and just really excited about what you're up to and what you stand for. So thank you again so much.
Thank you both so much for all you're doing. I had so much fun. It ended with tears.
Thank you so much, Paige.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share it with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.